Enjoy Johnny's Bite. As always, just in case you want to get interactive with Johnny, you can always do so across social media, and Johnny Hughes is always available. You can also go to the platforms of 92.7, 3FM. It's one of the biggest subsidiaries of Media General right here. Johnny is always on the morning show, and with Johnny's Bite, you know that you're covered for many issues that you want to relate to. And right on TV3 New Day, we do so as well. And so you get to TV3 Ghana, you get an upload of our conversation. For the big issues, we'll be talking about a number of things, and including why we should be worried about our current debt stock, which has now hit 742 billion. Well, and that 742 billion hole that we have dug for ourselves for our public debt is just at the last count. That's June. So it means that July hasn't come in. We're entering August. It will come. And we have to survive by the loans as well. How do we dig ourselves of this humongous debt we have? 742 billion. Do we need to go and take a look at perhaps maybe what was undertaken during the Kufuor administration, where we had some of the zeros knocked off the Ghana cedi, so that we can have a reduced Ghana cedi knocked off zero equal to $1 and then 1 cedi, because now the dollar is over 10 Ghana cedis. On the street, if you want it in bulk, you can negotiate it higher depending on the time you want it. The pound also in excess, and so we should be worried. So we're here to discuss that today. Now, we also introduce our guests, but let me tell you, we have cash out *439#, and with *439#, you have to choose option 2. And so when you choose option 2, you also need to be in a position where you have to increase the number of tickets. And let me say good morning to a number of you who already are joining our stream. The good thing that we encourage you when you join our stream is that also be cashing out. It's not only you just joining and then sending the messages. And then when you're sending the messages, also make sure that you let us know what you think this morning. Let me say good morning to a couple of you. Charles Thompson is watching us from the UK. UK is Money Ni Money. I've already seen you in the Mensa Majid, good morning. Sonia Aklaku, good morning. Sherry Giovanni, good morning to you. Nelson Akotia, good morning. And all of you who are joining, Imelda Nassar, good morning to you. Please make sure you share our stream. Let us have a nice conversation. Dear valued customer, MTN is undertaking a network upgrade across the country. As a result, you may be experiencing some disruptions in some services during this period. And according to MTN, they are apologizing for any inconvenience this may cause customers. Thank you for your understanding. And this officially is coming from MTN. And so just in case you're experiencing some disruptions in services, please know that it is due to what they're telling us this morning. I am joined by a legal practitioner and lawyer Apia Dankwa is here. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Roland.
Yeah. And then Abraham Amaliba. Abraham Amaliba is also a lawyer. Good morning to you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay. Yesterday, I saw in the news that the EC has once again demonstrated its incompetence.
What did the EC do?
In not being able to the accurate fees engage Peace Council where I represent the NDC. And I told the Peace Council that.
As part of your role as a director of
conflict resolution. So I told the Peace Council that they should admonish the EC. And the EC representative was the one who took over from Dr. Srebo. He was in the meeting.
The director of
elections, the new director of elections, he was there. And I told the Peace Council to admonish the EC to at least go into one of these universities and get a mathematician. Employ that person to be doing the calculation, the math.
The computation.
Why?
Because for you, the numbers just don't add up.
It just don't add up, and it is risky. You know? Coming events cast their shadow. This is a woman, or let me take care of, a commission that couldn't give us results of the last elections. that results transmogrified like 5 times. Now, simple addition of registrants, you can't do it. You know what they are doing? And that's my concluding remark. They want to come up with some figures which, at the end of the day, when the NPP loses the election, they'll go to the Supreme Court, believing that because they have judges they appointed, they'll turn over the results. Never. It won't happen in this country. I'm giving them a warning.
That's a conspiracy theory from you as NDC.
Else, why would you be making those elementary mistakes?
Well,
go to our secondary schools, not even the university. You get a mathematician who can do those things.
I've seen Professor Asari also question the computation in terms of the numbers during the registration process that has been reported by the Electoral Commission. I'll deal with that on Monday on big issues, and so make sure you stay right here. And then Lawyer Jantua is also here. Lawyer Jantua taking a look at some figures when it comes to debt for us. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Charlie, I did top. We're surviving.
Good.
Surviving.
I don't understand why, when you were in your earlier
submission.
No, in your earlier
the 1 million.
Yeah, the 1 million.
Okay, so the question was, and Cookie is the one who decided to be the conspirator this morning.
Yeah.
The proposition was, would you take 1 million Ghana cedi cash now, or you take 5,000 Ghana cedis till you die?
Yes.
It was just a question for our audience for a cool Friday.
I was a bit surprised when Ghanaians.
What would have been your option?
5,000
every month.
Every month.
How old are you?
I'm 66.
Okay.
5,000.
So you take 5,000.
If I die, that's every year. My dependence.
No, it's not transferable.
It's not transferable.
No.
So once I die, if it stops,
certainly.
Do I decide when I will die?
No.
If I take the 1 million, do I know when I will die?
No. How old was your father when he died?
102.
Okay, so let's assume that you live 101.
101.
And so you take 5,000.
5,000.
But that's the risk you take in life.
Well, everything is a risk.
Yeah, true.
Because
so the risk I would take
remember
is
the 1 million, depreciation will catch it.
The risk
it can't do much.
The risk
in today's Ghana.
The 1 million.
Yes.
But if you invest it today,
can it buy a house?
You just have to convert it to
can
US
it buy
dollar.
a
I think
house?
It's over 66,000 US
yes,
dollars.
It can buy a house.
If you keep that investment, 66,000.
Remember, you have extended family. The moment they see you've got that money,
you mean those,
they will come
those
for their
your friends who have been asking them Momo every day. Mami 200, Mami 200 Ghana cedi.
But this conversion thing you are saying, it doesn't help our city.
Yeah,
this
true.
attitude that doesn't help our city.
It's true. It's true. Movement for change people, they only change when they join the party from NPP. You people,
Listen. We've left NPP for almost a year now. I think you should bury the NPP.
I apologize. I apologize to all members of Movement for Change. Please make sure you share the stream about Zachary. Now let me just take you through. By the time that we were very reluctant to go to the IMF in 2022, what our debt stock was, and this was domestic debt. It was 457 billion. External was 58%. All right, so this is where we are currently. So it was 42%, then we have 58%. Now, let's go to the next slide. There's a Reuters one. So at the time that we wanted to do the domestic debt exchange, and this one, we're in the second year when we were thinking about this. We organized labor and everybody said they would not agree. The composition of our debt back in 2022, and this one is an infographics that we also have moved around, but this one also is from Reuters as well. Bloomberg also used it. The Social Security and National Insurance Trust, and the commercial banks, they were having a chunk of our debt before the restructuring, the domestic debt restructuring. And then we had the other firms and institutions, 29%. Then we had the insurance companies, the rural banks, the pension funds, the Bank of Ghana itself. And then the foreign investors, they had those. And this is domestic debt. So we have foreign investors who also buy our debt locally. So you should know. And then we have the others as well. Okay, so basically, this is what it is. Now, at the time we're doing this, that's the external debt, Ghana's external debt in 2022, and that's Q3. We hadn't even got into the time when the CD, etc., was tumbling. The Euro bonds were in excess 13 billion. Now we've increased it. Multilateral debts were 8.1. And I'm talking 2 years ago when we all said we won't go to the IMF. We won't go to the IMF today. We won't go to the IMF tomorrow. Sambalat and Tobias, and then the people who were sent to go to the land and go and, what was their name? The giants. They saw the giant. What's the name? Oh, Ken Friata.
Caleb and Joshua.
Yeah, so we had Joshua and Caleb, So that was the situation. Then we had the Paris Club.
We are proud people.
We're a proud nation. Now, the latest indication as at the end of June, or the time we compiled the debt in June and reported to us formally, because this one we want to use the formal figures, because when we go around and we go to Bloomberg and Fitch and the rest, we tend to have problems all the time, and the threats tend to come. Now we have 742 billion Ghana cedi as our debt. I mean, we should be worried. Whatever it is, we should be worried. How do we dig ourselves out of this hole? 742 billion Ghana cedis. And already by last week, the finance minister was speaking to a number of Arab groups and institutions and investors for another 12 billion. And we keep borrowing and borrowing. And this is an election year. We're going to spend, well, we say that the budget hasn't been added up, etc. What do you make of this yourself if you're watching us? And Lawyer Apia Dankwa, as an Achimotan, somebody who decided to stay in Ghana, you monitored the situation over the last 2 years and where we are currently. What do you make of this, Lawyer Apia Dankwa?
So let me take this opportunity to wish your viewers a good morning. Pleasure to share this platform with my big brother, Lawyer Jantua. I'm Maliba, we go way back. He was my senior in law school. I've been following him, and it's a pleasure to have him join. Yeah, certainly, yeah. Certainly, this debt issue has been one of the perennial issues for a lack of economic transformation. I think the issue over the last 2 years, issues especially concerning the debt restructuring and understanding of as in the entities and institutions that had latched onto, especially government bonds. For me, it told me why consistently our economy has failed to grow. Because if you consider the fact that our banks, our commercial banks, spend more than almost about 70% of their money is buying government bonds. The fact that pension funds are all used to purchase government bonds, then clearly it shows, or gives credence, or it gives us an evidence as to why our economy has failed to grow, why we are unable, government is unable to raise the revenue that it needs to carry its agenda. Because certainly, private sector, which is supposed to be the engine of growth, which is supposed to be one of the main areas where government will get its revenue, because if you understand the fact that in financing projects, as in you either need equity or debt, and equity being your own money. And so if you had created an environment where private sector was growing, you all know that the air that every business breathes is money, capital. And this same private sector has been crowded out because government has practically mopped up all the capital in the system. Then it tells you why, as a country, we are unable to grow and thus generate the revenue that government will need. Now, also, when you consider what His Excellency Dr. Bamia said when MPP was in opposition about that kind of rat race. So, because if you don't have the revenue, then you'll be forced to borrow, and yes, it hasn't that. And the fact that when MPP came into power, at a time when, because we were at the IMF, we had that space when GDP, debt to GDP had come about 55%. They failed to use their spending, their fiscal policy to find a way of engendering growth within the private sector. You understand? Then we put ourselves in a situation where, because we are unable to generate the revenue that we would need to undertake government projects, then would still need to resort to debt as well. Also, this debt issue also can be said to be one of the reasons why inflation is going up, because we know that, strangely, in our country, government always feels that it needs to fall on monetary financing, as in Bank of Ghana printing more money to sometimes deal with their debt issues. I think over the past few years, we've seen, or there have been stories of Bank of Ghana printing more than, I think, 140 billion or 40 billion, and you know what that can do to your inflation. So certainly we know what debt, as in why we are in debt, and for me is the creation of government, because you see, as a government, you deliberately need to create that environment, understand, that environment that will cause your private sector to grow, so that, because that's where you can generate your revenue. But where the government creates a system where they govern themselves, mops up all the monies in the system, they stifle private sector. There's no deliberate plan by government to give sustained support to private sector, especially SME. Then one wonders where the growth is going to come from and where you are going to get your revenue. Because essentially, if you put all our problems and say you want to box them into 3 areas, then essentially the first one will be our inability to raise revenue. 1, 2, our inability to create jobs, and 3, our inability to have consistent flows of foreign exchange. But that's the doing of government, because government over the years, especially this Nanado government, has failed to deliberately use the powers it has, its power of fiscal policy, to grow private sector. Also, clearly, fiscal indiscipline, where government decides to spend its money. Because I've always wondered why government, strangely, would decide to spend 2 billion on NAPCO, a program like NAPCO. I don't know what NAPCO brings to our GDP. I don't know what NAPCO does in terms of creating permanent jobs. 2 billion. Yeah, but that's what the Dr. Bamia told us when he had that his famous speech. Was it in Kaswa, or I think about 2 or 3 years ago? He said they spent about 2 billion on NAPCO, and strangely spent like just about 400 million on one of government's most transformational programs, the 1D1F. So clearly, one of the issues we have is clearly government's lack of commitment to building the sectors of the economy that will cause it to raise those revenues, or at least put it in a position where it would not have to depend on debts. Because as stands now, about 60% to 70% of all the monies we have is used to service debt. The rest is used to pay public sector workers. So then where does government have the money to, as it were?
That doesn't look good for us.
At all. And that's why, for me, going to the 2024 elections, Ghanaians need to be asking the critical questions. 1, all the people who are putting themselves up to president, and I'm saying the people because, and I'm glad I have my senior lawyers here, because when you are going to vote, you are not going to vote for the political parties. You understand? We are not going to vote for the political parties. We are going to vote for human beings. And I think when you analyze the presence we've had, the fact that, let's say, under John Evans, at Mills' time, Ghana had one of the best indicators. We didn't have so good indicators under Mahama, but we were under the same NDC regime. And if you come to the NPP, you also the presidency of President Kufuor. The fact that between President Kufuor and Nana-Addo is like day and night. So then it is our responsibility to look at the people who want to be president and then ask them the right questions. How do they intend to manage our debt? What policies are they putting in place that's going to engender growth? We will need to ask the right questions, interrogate the answers.
As voters?
As voters, yes.
Okay.
And then
we'll come back to what your great transformation plan is. Yeah. I know that you quote it certainly. But
yeah, certainly, yeah.
Mr. Maliba, we were told that if your exchange rate is weak, then it's a reflection of how bad you mismanage an economy and how weak your economy is. And then we're also told that, and Dr. Bawumia had held...
If the fundamentals are weak,
yes, sure,
the exchange rate will expose you.
Yeah. If the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. I was just trying to paraphrase, trying to do the interpretation. But at the end of the day, we're told that even every money is here. You can get everything you need by way of the revenues and the monies because he has worked at the Bank of Ghana. You juxtapose that to how humongous our current debt is. From 122 billion by the time that the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia government took office, and now the finance minister is reporting 742 billion. I mean, it's frightening, is it not? Who do we apportion the blame?
I'll get to who we are apportioning the blame to. But the same person who you are quoting later on told us that it is warped logic. He himself illogically said that it was warped logic. When the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you.
You mean Dr. Bawumia?
Dr. Bawumia. And I think that that's the reason why I see him not to be a serious candidate for presidency. And I think the office of flag bearer itself is overwhelming for him. See that he's gone to talk about phones and that he will give everybody a phone. Then we'll be deducting 1 cedi, 1 cedi, 2 cedis, 2 cedis. You wonder what kind of presidential candidate is this? Does he know how long it will take to pay that 1 cedi, 1 cedi for the company that provided the phones to get his money? He's simply lost ideas. But see, the question to ask is, how do we become a baller economy? How did we, a once thriving economy is today a baller economy?
A baller economy?
A baller economy.
It's rubbish. You cannot use such terms for a description because we're told that we're turning the corner.
But don't you think that my use of the baller economy is better than when a foreign company declares you as a junk? Didn't they say we're junk? Yeah. Junkie. Eh? We're junkie. All of us are junkies. That's what they are telling us. So baller is better. You see, a country that produces gold, oil, and cocoa. I'm told that we are now the leading producer of cocoa. That's what I heard from John Julapo. But being the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to gain independence, it's a disgrace that we are where we are today. It's a complete disgrace. Who has brought us here? I have said that Ghana has been hit by a quadruple whammy.
Quadruple whammy?
Quadruple whammy. And those whammies can be found in the following people. One, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. This is a man who says, I see no corruption, I hear no corruption in his government. And there are plethora of examples to show how he propped up ministers who were found to be corrupt, or appointees found to be corrupt.
Well, they were sent to institutions of state that deal with corruption. Usually that's his response.
The latest one, which has to do with the sanitation minister, where money was touched in his bedroom. And she, up to date, can't explain how that money came about. Huh? Didn't he ask the Attorney General to write a piece and clear her? So this is a man who sees no corruption, hears no corruption. And his own lifestyle. At the time this country was on its knees, this man would charter plane, luxurious jets, and be flying all over the country. Even one of it was to go and watch a football match, Tottenham Hotspur and some team. How is that inuring to our benefit, Mr. President? Now the public purse is even missing under his reign. He's no more protecting it. So he's one of the reasons why we are where we are. Two is Bawumia himself. This is a man we're told is an economic guru. He headed, or he still has, not that he headed, the economic management team. He spoke and told us the very same things that you are telling us. That because he works at the Bank of Ghana, he knows how to manage this economy, and we didn't need to borrow. Today, we have borrowed into debt. We've borrowed this country into debt. And who did that borrowing? The third person is Ken Ofori-Atta. His whole tenure as finance minister was borrowing, borrowing, borrowing. At the end of the day, he also gets some benefits from the borrowing. All those monies went to his data bank, and he himself. The last person, quadruple, is the governor of Bank of Ghana, Addison, who decided to use the Bank of Ghana as a source of printing money and ensuring that those monies goes to the government. Today, the Bank of Ghana is broke. When you look at their balance sheet, the Bank of Ghana is broke. Never has it happened. And so, if you come round, it is easy to know how we got to where we are. But the issue is not about borrowing. It's what you borrow and use the money for. And that's why I didn't agree with my colleague.
That's free SHS. We spent 9 billion. That's the latest we're told.
9 billion for what?
Free SHS. And
Okay.
all,
Okay.
because you're asking...
The kind of free SHS that is being turned out, is that what you expected? Where children eat weevil-infested beans? Where children sleep rough? Where children are made to copy and pass exams? I'm not saying it. The headmaster said it. You see, the best way to destroy a country, I think Mandela said it, is not to use guns and cause mayhem in the country. Is to destroy your educational system. And this is what we are facing. So, you look at it and you say that, what did you use all these monies for? They can show one or two things, but it doesn't correspond with the amounts, huge amounts that we have taken. Look, from the days of Diago de Azambuja.
Diago de Azambuja, the discoverer?
To Gordon Gogisbeck, through to Nkrumah, Liman, Rawlings, Kufuor, Atamils, Mahama, and today Akufo-Addo. This government has borrowed more than all of them. Yet, there's little to show for that. And what has this overborrowing done to us? And that is what your question is about. What has this overborrowing done to us?
The whole that we've done for
ourselves.
742 billion.
Are you aware Ghana is no more a favorable destination for investors? And that's why the companies are leaving. Wow.
The companies are leaving. Wow.
I'm told Togo and even Benin is more favorable to investors than Ghana. Togo and Benin. I'm not even talking about our Ivory Coast with our peers. I'm not talking about that. This same overborrowing has led to slow in the economic growth. The economy is no more growing. Are you therefore surprised to see Ghanaians leaving the shores of this country? To the extent that a family was asked to go and bring their dead body. They themselves got there, they absconded.
Which one are you referring to?
The death should bury itself.
The Paralympic team coach who died.
Yes.
Whose relative then also decided to abscond when they were asked to go and bring the dead body of the coach.
But you, if you were the one, you want to abscond. The dead, after the dead, it is dead, oh. The people in, what's the name? Canadians can bury that man. But they are living. They must find a way. Yeah. It's Norway.
They went to Norway. Yeah.
Norway. When he became, my grandfather used to tell me that when he installed the whole house and they are angry with him, he said he doesn't care. If he does and the people in the house don't bury him, those who are passing by the road with the stench, they will come and bury him. So after the dead, somebody will bury. But those who are living, when they got there, Otilo, and people are living in droves. I know of an engineer of ECG who couldn't bear it and just left.
Left his engineering job.
Look at engineer. And that is why me today, and I'm not going to be apologetic, when I see people in this country still rooting for the MPP, I dare say that there are 3 qualifications for one to vote, you should be a Ghanaian. You should be above 18. You should be of sound mind. I think the sound mind, we have always not checked it.
But how do you send a signal that you want to check some? Are you a psychiatrist?
I'm saying that we do evaluation of the two. The third one, we are able to determine if you are 18. We are able to determine if you are a Ghanaian. But the sound mind is what we don't do anything about. And so when you find people this day rooting for the MPP to still retain power, I shake my head. You understand? Because a government that has brought you into this ditch, nothing should tell you that you must see the back of this government. I see people on social media still rooting for this government. Why won't I call for the sound mind to be checked? Don't you have pains in you? When you get up and you are even rich and you see people not being able to afford 3 square meals, your humanity should tell you that this is not what you expected. But currently, we have been shut out of the international capital market. These are the effects. The last time I was craving for kenke. I bought my kenke and I wanted to grind. I didn't want their paper, so I wanted my wife to grind tomatoes and things for me. I go to the tomatoes woman. I said I want 10 cedis because I'm not going to buy to go and cook, just grinding. That one is 5 cedis. I said, why? And this is a woman I buy from her, and then sometimes there's change, I leave it to her. I said, Abba, so even with the change I've been giving you, you can't even look at that and then understand my situation. Actually, I wasn't going to grind and eat kenke.
The woman should look.
But previously, I've been giving her balances.
Maliba.
Huh?
You look at the change you make.
Yeah, sometimes.
Because you're a loyal customer.
Very good. At least. But the woman said, never. So, do I blame her? I don't blame her. Because the situation is bad. And so, look, where we are, we are at a point of no return. And the only way, like cancer, which attacks any part of your body, and the doctors recommend amputation, the only way to deal with this government is to amputate them. That's all.
You have lived through the years as well. Your father even served in government, and you looked at the good things that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah did. Even became a point of argument, of course, just because of the utterances of the vice presidential candidates of the MPP at the end of the day. But you look at where we are now, this situation, what is it comparable to? And how do we make sure this 740 billion and counting, being the public debt, we get ourselves gradually out of it? And how do you envisage that is going to take us?
Hey, that's a difficult question. But the first question I ask you, and I ask this, good morning to our viewers. The first question I ask, and I ask to the media, why aren't you interviewing Ken Ofori-Atta?
I think that his last interview was with George Weah. Before then, there was...
He's no more finance minister. A lot of the debt we're talking about comes from... Why aren't we talking to him? Where is Ken Ofori-Atta? He was finance minister when all this happened. Why aren't we talking to him? Why aren't we putting the questions to him? Mr. Finance Minister, why did this happen? Why did that happen? How come we've ballooned to 742 million? Why isn't anybody talking to him? Why? Are you scared of him? Media? Is it that you feel that if you try and talk to him... MPP has already boycotted this program, haven't they? Haven't they?
They have.
It would have been good if they were here. We would have had a very good discussion, wouldn't we? Because it would be their part, and it would be an opportunity for them to do what? To show Ghanaians why certain things have happened. But they've boycotted. So why? Media, are you scared to call Ken Ofori-Atta and ask him where we are today? And the question you're asking me, ask him, how do you see us getting out of it? We are 31 million, aren't we? Huh?
And counting.
And counting. This 742 billion. Every Ghanaian will have to pay 24,000 cedis. Every Ghanaian.
Every Ghanaian owes 24,000 Ghana cedis. That's at the last count.
Yes. 31 million population. 24,000 Ghana cedis. How many people earn 24,000 Ghana cedis in Ghana today? How many? How many? So, J. Rawlings, from the Fourth Republic, his debt was $10 billion. From 93 to 2000, plus the 12 years he was a military leader. Then came President Kufuor. He rose it up to $8 billion. $8 billion, which translates it to 9.7 billion cedis. But remember,
after HIPIC,
he got HIPIC 6.3 billion off. Then came to Atta Mills. So from 9.7 billion to nearly 36 billion of that. Then comes to John Mahama, 122 billion. More than 86 billion was added to the debt stock. From John Mahama, then comes to Nana Addo. Nearly 620 billion has been added to the debt stock to get this counting 742 billion. Let's take the 742
That's frightening.
Billion. Frightening. Let's give provision for depreciation of the cedi. Let's give provision for accumulation of arrears of debts incurred from previous regimes. Let's give that. But still, it's high. Roland, one thing I don't understand is that, and you ask, how are we going to get out of this? One of the major challenges that we haven't looked at, that we can use to help clear this debt, is our gold resources.
You mean you're also rooting for gold for oil policy?
Not gold for oil policy.
So what are you saying?
Gold is a currency. Gold, if gold depreciates, it doesn't depreciate more than 20%. It even hardly depreciates.
You are saying that it is a good store of value.
No, wait. Let me finish. If we had managed our gold infrastructure properly, got Ghanaian companies to also mine gold, held our gold, did it well, had a gold refinery in here where we are refining gold to add value to it. Do you think we'd have to go out there and borrow the way we were borrowing? Do you think so? So, even just two items, gold and oil. Let's just take those two. 2016 to 2024, have we done any exploration to production? Tell me, have we? And the thing about oil is that when the money comes, it comes like a tsunami. Comes plenty. So you can use that money if you manage it properly. And one of the major challenges we have in this country is the fact that we haven't managed our finances properly. What did Ken Ofori-Atta do? Come every beginning of the year, the cedi was naked. The cedi was naked. What did we do? Go and borrow money, cover the cedi. Go and borrow money, cover the cedi. Go and borrow money, cover the cedi. And then fortunately, unfortunately for us, COVID came in. So they now had something to cover it. But even with COVID, did we not get quite a lot of money? Just for COVID itself. Nearly 30 billion, did we not? What was that money used for? So let's take it that 742 is the debt. What has that money been used for? They should be able to itemize it and tell us. If it so happened that 742 million was used, some was used to bring Tema Oil Refinery up, yeah, we will say, what? We have stopped, what do you call it, importation, at least we cut importation of fuel down. If some of that 742 was used to do, what do you call it, Commander Sugar Factory, would have said, oh, we have reduced the amount of money we are using to import. If some of that 742 was used to do rice production, would have said, oh, yes, we've been able to reduce some of the money that is creating capital flight. If some of that 742 was used to build a jute factory that would print our jute bags for our cocoa, oh, we have reduced the capital flight. Has that happened?
Being a policy of serious import substitution.
Happened? Yes. Has that happened? So they should tell us how this 742 was spent.
But there's free SHS. So 9 billion was used.
Free SHS. 9 billion was used.
Or is it not funded by?
Did they tell us?
Or it's funded by petroleum revenues?
Petroleum revenues is in there. When you take the 4 priority areas, education, petroleum revenues is in there. But you ask the question, you ask the question, when we brought free SHS, and nobody's saying it's a bad policy. Nobody's saying it's a bad policy. When we brought free SHS, were we told how it was going to be financed? They will tell you of everything, good policy, but you know, it takes time to put financing together. It takes time. You plan. You plan and plan well. Free SHS is a policy that our people need. We need to educate our people. So in educating our people, how are we going to finance it? Then you put the financing in place for everybody to see. But you see, where we are today, we have to learn to do collaborative politics. What does that mean? What does that mean? You have an opposition party. You have opposition parties. The kind of spending you are doing, you've got to get opposition parties part and parcel of it so that they also understand. I bet your bottom city, if the MPP don't come back into power 2025 and another party comes in, the hole that has been dug would even be larger than what we see today. It will be larger because a lot of things are being hidden. Let me give you analysis of Bank of Ghana. I will show you. Okay, Bank of Ghana in 2021, how much money did they print for government? 35 billion in 2021. In 2022, how much did they print for government? 42 billion. To do what? For government projects. Where is it? Look, I'm not saying MPP hasn't done anything cool. I'm not saying that. They could have done better. They could have done more with the amounts of money they've had. 622 billion cedis more than all the others? No. No. Questions have to be asked. Okay. So I ask what AB just said. Why would anybody sit and say we are voting for MPP?
But that's their choice. It's a right that they have. When the S hits the fan, it's spread on all of us, including MPP people. Look at what is happening in America today. With Kamala Harris now coming on, there are some people who were interested in, what do you call it, in Trump, and weren't too sure because of what he was saying, who are now shifting. Please, MPP supporters, bring country first. Bring country first. Yes, it's your party in power. Okay. But we are all going through the challenges. All right.
And it is difficult for all of us.
I made the conversation of the debt, etc., is how we spent 9 billion on free SHS and all that, and then the other component sectors. There's a critical issue also about the provision of textbooks, and for which the new curricula, there's the absence of it. So I have Kofi Asare. I want to give him 5 minutes so that we'll quickly turn to deal with this. Kofi Asare, good morning to you. Africa Education World Executive Director, has long worked in the sector as a researcher, think tank, and policy advisor in terms of from civil society. Good morning to you. We went around, we saw that for the new curricula, textbooks were not available. Why is that?
Good morning, Roland and your team. I think we've had some issues with textbooks availability in our schools at the basic level. But the last time we did a survey of 20 districts, which is last year, 63% of the required textbooks in the 4 core subjects, and I'm talking creative arts, I'm talking English, maths, and science, were available. And that was as a result of government printing some first batch of 9.5 million textbooks in the 4 subjects. Okay. We discovered that in other subjects, there were scarcely textbooks available in schools. And we also discovered that in certain districts in the northern region, for instance, in the Savulugu, in Nanumba South also, there were districts where even though the national average was 62% for the 4 core subjects, there wasn't a single maths book in some of those districts, especially in the northern region. And so the rural-urban divide in education service provisioning had also affected the distribution of critical teaching and learning resources, including textbooks. And so we had a discussion with the authorities, the GS leadership, on how to redistribute textbooks. We realized that in districts like Tema, we had more textbooks in some subjects than we required. So it was obvious that the formula for distributing the textbook wasn't equitable, and that rural districts, especially the northern region, were getting fewer, while some urban districts, especially in Greater Accra region, were getting more. So that was the position of textbooks. Now, don't forget that was after year 4 of introducing a new curriculum for primary schools. Now, this is primary school textbooks I'm talking about. Now, we have introduced a new curriculum in junior high schools, and we are also in year 3 of that. In fact, the first batch of those who went through the curriculum are just finished writing the BEC. Their textbooks also arrived in some proportions this year, meaning that we went almost 3 years before we saw textbooks in the junior school curriculum as well, compared to the 4 years we did for the primary schools. In the case of the junior high school curriculum also, textbooks are available not in full proportion, but then in significant quantities in the 4 core. Now, the challenge is that there are 2 conversations we must have as a country. The first is how we roll out new curriculum. According to our curriculum framework, every 5 years, we have to review curriculum and ensure that it is abreast with the emerging dynamics, global and local. Okay. But how we roll out curriculum will have to be revisited either by law or policy. Because what is happening is that even though we've had 4 years of curriculum at the primary level before seeing textbooks, and 3 years of curriculum at the junior school before seeing textbooks, in the past, we're doing about 6 to 8 years without seeing textbooks. So if you look at it historically, you say that we've made progress. But the reality is that the culture of introducing new curricula within a short time is not helping us.
It's not helping us.
When you develop a new curriculum for primary schools, we should have a policy that simply says that we don't roll out the curriculum after developing it and piloting it. We don't roll it out until you have all components of textbooks needed to teach in that curriculum. Until you have significant amount of teaching and learning resources, not just textbooks, teaching and learning resources needed to operationalize the textbooks. Because here is the case where we roll out the curriculum without textbooks, and then we only provide teachers' guide.
Well, Mr. Asari, so we went around to some schools right here in the capital, and we showed the story where even there were no textbooks at all, and the teachers themselves confirmed it. But you are saying that we do have enough quantities. Is that what you're saying?
So I'm saying that in primary schools where we surveyed 20 districts, we had 63% of textbooks available in the 4 core.
So does it mean that what we chanced on were just isolated?
No, we haven't surveyed junior high schools. I'm sure you went to junior high school. There's no primary school in this country where there's no textbook. The challenge is the junior high school ones. I'm saying they arrived this year in limited quantities. So we haven't surveyed junior high schools. But the point I'm making, which is the way out of this, is where my interest is and where our interest should be. That we should have a culture where we don't start implementing a curriculum just because we have finished developing the content of the curriculum. But we should have a culture where, after developing curriculum content and piloting, say, we finish developing textbooks before we roll the curriculum out. 2, not only textbooks, you are saying textbooks, but there are some subjects that you don't need textbooks to teach. You need ICT labs to teach computing. Computing is one of the most important fourth industrial revolution, 21st century subjects in the basic school now. But only 15% of our basic schools have access to computers. Only 15%. So how do they teach computing? So it's not about textbook for computing. So it is a broader conversation around ensuring that the teaching and learning resources required to teach every new curriculum introduced must be sufficiently available before we roll out the curriculum. Other than that, this discussion is going to be, an unending discussion.
Yeah,
for me, that's the way out of all this.
I think I needed you to clarify that so that we put all the matters into perspective. There's a State of Education event on Tuesday. You'll be there, right? The ministry has invited me. I'll be there, right?
Yeah, we will be there. And I'm also aware that the procurement process is underway to procure some textbooks for junior high schools and basic schools. And that GET fund, I think 125 million was allocated, approved by Parliament in April or so, for textbooks. And so with that procurement, we should see some significant amount of textbooks hitting our junior high schools, especially later in the year. But as I'm saying, we should depart from this practice. We are introducing a new senior high school curriculum in a couple of months' time. We are going to enter the same situation again. No textbooks, only learning guide for manuals for teachers, and it appears that we are not learning from this experience. And so I hope that we have a policy that guides us within this context, so that we improve from where we are.
Thank you for this clarification. I just needed to do that. Thank you very much, Kofi Asa, Executive Director, Africa Education Watch. And now let's get back to how we dig ourselves out of this hole. The 742 billion Ghana cedi debt. What remedies do we have as parties, as economists, as those who speak publicly and are concerned, and consumers, Ghanaians?
Yes. So for us, in our GTP, I think there are a number of ways in which we can deal with this issue. I think already discussions have been had, as not by us, by government, because this DDP and all points to an attempt by government to get some form of debt relief. Now we are saying that government needs to, or when we are empowered, that's a very comprehensive and compelling case will be made to support government's negotiations with external creditors, and for the debt, that kind of debt relief will be focusing on is debt forgiveness, and it's been done before in 2000, as in when President Kufuor came to power, as in, so that's one focus. Two, I think one of the problems we have in this country is enforcement, because we have a regime that says that government cannot borrow more than 5% of its GDP. I think it's time for that to be enforced.
Spent, cannot
spend more than 5%. But also, we are saying that, as in, if you read our GDP as in 1.71, we are saying that we need to have a regime that says that will put a cap on government's borrowing. Not just spending, but to actually put a cap.
That's the proposition from the movement for change.
That there should be a cap on
borrowing.
Yes, certainly. As in, even in the US, they have a cap. So and then also, if we understand that one of the reasons why we borrow is because of the fact that government thinks that it always needs to be the one financing capital expenditure. Now, I think that we are saying that we are going to find a way of incentivizing and attracting private sector investment into that sector through very comprehensive and creative PPP arrangement. What that does is that it then reduces the need for government to spend money as in building roads, hospitals, and some of these things. And also, I think it is necessary that because we borrow, or one of the reasons why we borrow, or we think we need to borrow is because the economy isn't growing, is to have a policy where government would find a way of granting proper institutional support to the SMEs. So we have in our GTP one of the critical policies to deal with the SMEs, as in to use a power of fiscal policy to direct policy at causing the banks to grant money to the SMEs. Because when there's growth, then there will be an increase in your revenue. So beyond, as in even that, government itself, under our what's called Alliance leadership, we introduced what we call a government loan guarantee scheme, where central bank itself also institutes a loan guarantee scheme that would then cause our banks to release the liquidity that the private sector
is the problem not you giving the loans at a good rate?
So
that they become recoverable.
So it's a very comprehensive. So when you look at our GDP, there's also a policy that says that we will consistently drive our interest rate regime to a state where we will have interest rate under 10%. Yes, because we seem to have an inflationary policy. We seem to believe that we have inflation because people have too much money. But we know that in Ghana, what causes inflation is not because we have too much money to spend. Rather, Bank of Ghana themselves, they are monitoring financing and all, the fact that there is no growth. So, in the contrary, when you have a policy whose focus is to drive down interest rates, then you can enjoy that growth and then you can have the revenue which will ensure that at least you have the money to also undertake your project. So, for me, I think our policies are clear, as in one, to, like I said, to undertake a project that will grant us debt relief. Two, to bring what's called a cap on government borrowing to no more than 5% of your GDP, and to put in place policies that will engender the growth that will give you the revenue you need.
Mr. Maliba, it means that we have to live within our means. I mean, that's the reality.
On your topic on education, this is what a writer sent. Lawyer, there are textbooks. I don't know what this MPP is about. They are collapsing education. I was able to write all these textbooks for a publisher. Why can't the government buy these textbooks for them? And he gave his name. I won't mention the name because they will get him. I am currently writing 5 textbooks for foreign government. Cambridge University contacted me through their local rep in Ghana, and I wrote these books for them.
You mean a local expert is writing for British curriculum?
Yes. His name is there. When I mentioned, they will go and attack him. But something Jacob. Well, for Jacobs, there are many, isn't it?
Even in the Bible, yes.
In the Bible, there are many.
But there are very few Jacobs who are writing.
Have I given him out?
But how do we get ourselves out of this? Counting, 742 billion Ghana cedis counting. We say we have to cut the size, we have to cut expenditure, we still buy the V8, we do whatever we have to do, and it's problematic. How do we get this out?
I'm not a medical man, but today the medical terms are coming. Excision.
You mean cut?
Cut.
Surgery.
Excision. This government might just go first, because when the government goes, then when there's a new government, confidence begins to come and build up. Once these people are there, there's no way, because they've run out of ideas. So that's the first thing.
But mind you, if a new government comes, there can be a new government.
Which one?
These people can be a new government. This government should go. It's a new government that is going to come from them. So the whole MPP party should government.
Yes. But if this government is gone, who is going to be there for them?
But Baumia will be a continuation of Nanado, so it's still the whole government. So
that's what you mean.
No, so what it means is that
I get him.
Will be a new, but I'm saying Baumia.
Again, the MPP must just go. I think so. So the MPP must just go first to stop the bleeding, because now it's bleeding. People are frustrated. People are stressed out. People cannot even think right. I'm telling you.
People cannot think right.
No. People cannot. You are underestimating the economic malaise in which we are. Me and you are not the typical Ghanaian. So people are frustrated. People, why? When you are driving and you see people talking on the roadside, you think it's for nothing.
I'm a typical Ghanaian.
So first is to stop the bleeding. And stopping the bleeding is for this government to go. Now, what will the next government do? He has touched on some of them. The areas that we import so much and use hard currency to import them, let's begin to deal with those sectors. The rice, the sugar, and then the third one is what? There's a third one, rice, sugar, and then there's a third one. This is there's a third one,
poultry.
Which poultry, yes. these things, you must ensure that you ensure, and that's why people were saying that this is your one factory,
one district,
one factory, should not have been, you know, all over the country. It shouldn't have been all over the country. You just target the things that we use hard currency to import.
Create capital flight.
And then you then deal with those ones. And would have been sufficient, would have been in this situation. But when you vote people into government, you expect them to think for the people. The question is, are these people thinking for us, or they are thinking for their stomachs? The latter is the truth. You know the latter? The one they think for their stomach is the truth. So, I am of the view that we should brace for more difficult times. For this one, I cannot...
I mean, from now to the election?
No, I can't be nice about this. Ghanaians, let's brace. Those who are drinking water should intensify the drinking of the water. But the end will come. December. If you have survived 7 years, after this 3 months, 6 months, you'll be able to drink the water and survive. Then, when that is done, you then look at how the next government can deal with it. Because this president has even checked out. He said the next government will deal with it. So I think that we have gotten to our waste point. And so there's nothing we can do as a government to turn around the fortunes of this economy.
Lord Jantwa, I see you in a very pensive mood.
You see, Roland, it starts from electioneering. Unprecedented promises bring unprecedented borrowing.
Unprecedented promises bring unprecedented borrowing.
They keep telling us everything is unprecedented. And when you look at some of the projects that they went into, the borrowing has been unprecedented. So it starts from the kind of promises that are given, that are difficult to achieve, not taking into consideration the revenue you have. That's where it starts from. Now, let me be very, very, very clear to Ghanaians. 2025 onwards is not going to be easy.
Not rosy.
Nobody should think it's going to be easy. I pity the next president. Because if you paint a certain picture that I'm coming to rescue Ghanaians, when you yourself, whether it is Baumia, well, he would know. The others, the opposition ones, Chermati, President Mahama, Cheddar, those who have declared themselves.
But I'm told you're also vying for
I have not vying for anything. I haven't said I'm vying.
You yourself.
You'll be the first person to know if I was vying. They shouldn't create this kind of picture that tells us that, oh, when we come, we'll rescue you. Because the hole we are in is deeper than what is being shown today. Look, we have to be able to bring Ghanaians on board. The next president who comes in should be able to bring Ghanaians on board.
To get a buy-in of our states.
No, not even buy-in. To try as much as possible to change the certain mindset that we have, especially with imports. Especially with imports. The next president who is going to come in should be able to convince Ghanaians the quantum of capital flight that is going out of this country. Quantum. Let me ask you, how many local companies are taking loans from international banks? How many? Most of the loans, when they're being given by the local banks, where are the local banks today? Where do the local banks stand today? Look, the next president that comes is nitty-gritty. Little by little, we should be able to get, but it's not going to be easy. We've got to go into those areas where we know we have added value. Cocoa, for now, where's our cocoa industry? It's gone down by what, 400 million, what do you call it? We now about 400 million tons.
You mean 400,000?
400,000 whatever tons. Oh, okay. From the 800 and something that we had, it's gone down.
We exceeded 1 million sometimes.
How do we build it up? Galamsey. How do we handle Galamsey?
All right. Thank you.
Last of all, how do we clear personal interest? It is killing us. Politicians' personal interest is killing us. Look, when you empower, okay, but don't put your party before your country. Your country always comes first. Listen to America today and listen to what the candidates are saying. They always bring country first. And if the presidents the people have put their names up to stand for Ghanaians to vote for them, Ghanaians ask them a question. One question you need to ask them: are you going to take us back to IMF when we get out of IMF? And let's hear what they say.
But going to the IMF really is not a good. It's not a bad thing. Macky Sall always goes to the Senegal. They're always there because it puts them in check by way of the policy and their expenditure. Landlord Borga D-Line says,
are you sure?
If Baumia and Nana have not gotten power for us to see this mess, if they had not gotten into power for us to see this mess, we would have been here saying that the Messiah of Ghana, per their lectures, write-ups, and speech and experience, were those we never voted into power.
It's good they came.
And then a couple more. This one is coming from Musa Abatwa, who says the borrowing practices of the Akufo-Addo and Bawumia government reflect a profound misunderstanding on effective governance. With the government, when a government borrows funds, it should be directed towards capital investment that helps stimulate economic growth and development, such as infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Instead, well, we've not seen that under this administration. And then we have other messages as well. All right, so step into the world of Dewa. Dewa 539 for your chance to win big with Dewa Direct and Dewa Chop Money. With Dewa Direct, you dial *446#. You pick the ranges of the numbers 1 to 39. You also get to win big, being 20 times your stake, 40 times your stake, or 400 times your stake. And you also get to win cash every evening at 7 p.m. And when it's on Sundays, the draw is at 6 p.m. Early bets love Dewa Chop Money. At 10 a.m., there is a draw also. You dial *446#. You choose the range of the numbers 1 to 39. You win again 20 times your stake, 40 times your stake, or 400 times your stake. You can also play online, apart from the ISD. And so they have dewa-nla.com, or again, you can dial *446#. You remember, there's always, just in case you have customer complaints or inquiries to make, you call the following number: 055-6259-249 or 053-2479-879. Gentlemen, thank you. I wish you a blessed weekend. Usually, there's always repleted with funerals and events, etc.
I also want to wish all NDC members traveling to Tamale for the campaign launch traveling mercies, and God should be their guide and guide.
Tomorrow is a launch.
Tomorrow is a launch.
Oh, you're not going
okay.
And after the campaign launch, then you begin to see us in your homes, your hamlets, and the nooks and crannies of this country. This country must be rescued, inshallah.
You two are copying from Mustafa Hamid.
We were missing in the university, so...
He's been quiet since he came into power. Anyway, we're taking a break. We'll be right back.
Games on 1xBet. A wide variety of exciting slot games for every taste. Take your choice. numbers and let the luck be on your side.
Gambling can be a
bottle of milk, orange, please.
One quarter orange lemon. No. Quarter orange lemon. I'm gonna feel it cool, it refresh your body. Cola orange lemon and Covino, new non-alcoholic flavor. Vet is FDA approved.
Shine, rise and shine tonight. Day on point. Toast is Friday. It's still on point. Watch is Friday. All day long. Still on. Yes, it's still on point. Still on point. Watch is Friday. Still on point. Toast is on point. It's yummy delicious.
Fortune spread. Delicious, creamy, always on point.